This is Josh from Bald Bearded Bolshevik Bros. We got Michael and Ira here, and we're going to discuss anarchy and communism. Go.
My understanding is Josh brought me here to argue that communism is, in fact, the correct ism, and
Oh, yes.
that's counter your position that anarchism is, in fact, the better.
Anarchism is not only that, but I would define anarchism as, at first, it's most people are, when they're even hear about anarchy, especially in popular media, they think it means lawlessness, chaos, disorder, and it actually means quite the opposite. Anarchy literally translates from Latin anarchy, and away from archy or archon, controllers or rulers, excuse me. So anarchy doesn't mean no rules. It means no rulers. It means we can have agreements, and we should have agreements. But there's only in anarchy, the anarchy is based on something called the non-aggression principle and natural law. And if you do research into the foundations of modern law based on, I think, colonial law in England, it was all based on natural law, which was that there had to be a victim for there to be any kind of crime. Otherwise, everybody was sovereign. Everybody who was sovereign was sovereign. Sovereign meaning above rule. Meaning if I'm not harming anybody and I'm not breaking any of the agreements that I have agreed to do, meaning I'm not defrauding anybody or transgressing against a preformed contract, then I am free to do whatever I want unaccosted and unmolested. That is what anarchy is based on. Everything else has a medium, a physical being that is imbued with abilities that you do not have somehow, even though every single, I think, with the exception of a dictatorship, the other socioeconomic models all have us being equal under the law. In socialism, you're equal under the law. In communism, you're equal under the law. And in free market capitalism, democracy, you're equal under the law. So if that's the case, government mathematically could never exist because we would never be able to give people abilities that we fucking still don't have. I don't have the ability to arrest, to detain, to legislate, to arbitrate, to dictate. I don't have those abilities to tax. I don't have those abilities. You don't have those abilities. You don't have those abilities. You couldn't bring me 100 people who do. So how the fuck do we magically hand these abilities to other people? And maybe we don't call them rights. Oh, the police and military don't have any more rights than anybody else. Motherfucker, you're absolutely right. It's so funny that you're absolutely right to say that, but how ironic that you're so fucking wrong in the context because they operate in that format. The police operate with the ability to pluck you out of your motherfucking life path and remove you from it for 50 minutes at a time, even if nothing is going to happen. And still, if something's going to happen, remove you from your life path and sometimes remove you from this earth with almost no consequences. So, and I know you're not arguing for that, just for the people who might. It's what we contend over here is we've actually in the last few months, for myself, evolvingseeds.com, realized, and more people around the world are realizing every day that not only is government illegitimate, but it is a faith-based, dogmatic, religious belief system that has zero scientific evidence to support any of them. And I'm talking about communism, socialism, free market capitalism, democracy, the whole shebang. Any system that you try to arbitrarily dictate to human beings, right and wrong, claiming a monopoly on morality and reality, then you are operating in fucking fantasy and you are the principal dictator of tyranny. And in the United States, people get it twisted because they've been so indoctrinated. They say, oh, well, we're a freak. No, man. If the end result is you being dictated to, you live in a dictatorship. Communism, dictatorship. Socialism, dictatorship. Capitalism, free market democracy, dictatorship. Republic, dictatorship. Because the end result is they're able to tell you shit that don't have nothing to do with right and wrong. That don't have nothing to do with whether or not you harm somebody or not.
Communism is stateless, though, right?
Ideal communism is stateless, but the very act of arbitrarily assigning values to resources will inevitably have to erect some kind of government body to make those decisions.
There's no money in the economy either.
I can respect that. Well, that'd be great. I would just like to go back to the original things. And when you look at what the earth has been, is, and always will be, even all of the socioeconomic systems that you guys could name or even come up with are all based, just like that man's glasses, in a resource-based economy, meaning you cannot do anything. You don't fart gold, you don't shit silver, and I don't cough up diamonds. We don't make resources that are valuable to our own survival. If we did, we wouldn't have houses and shit. If I could just shit and build my house and it sustained me, then I wouldn't need fucking outside resources. But so long as there is an entity or force, which is mankind, arbitrarily dictating how resources will be valued and utilized without any attention paid or scientific analysis of how those, or consideration, that's what I was going to say, of how those resources are developed, maintained, and distributed. And that's
okay, we're a little bit over halfway now. Let's let Ira go for a minute.
All right, sure, where to start? So I'm going to try to paraphrase what you're saying. Any attempt at instilling some kind of government that produces and enforces kind of certain laws and governs other people's behavior is necessarily sort of a coercive material that sort of a coercive setup that depends upon sort of granting these powers of authority to people over us. And and really just creating these powers of authority out of thin air because these don't exist in nature.
And because we don't have them within ourselves. For instance, if we had, let's say we had 1 million people watching us right now, and us three, if none of us, meaning you, me, or him, have any fucking kryptonite, and none of the people in the million audience have kryptonite, and you can substitute kryptonite for anything that we don't have, limit marine pie, fucking, that's my common example. If we don't have something such as the right to dictate, arbitrate, tax, legislate, arrest, imprison, if we don't have something, we cannot give it to somebody else. It's called proper delegation. I have a whole video on our website where this guy from Hawaii is interviewed by a journalist, and somehow this journalist knows this stuff. I love him for it. Like, this isn't even old. This is like in the 70s or even the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. And he's like, bro, how can government form without proper delegation? And he basically is like, well, we just give these people the power to do da, 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 da. And he's like, but how? If you as the individual, if all just powers comes from the people and we're all equal under the law, how could they obtain these abilities? It's impossible. Everything that we would say about that is in favor of that magic happening would be magic, because it has no scientific substantiation. I've had $1,000 waiting for somebody to bring me, scientific evidence of the legitimacy of the inherent natural legitimacy in government. If they could show me proper delegation anywhere in nature, meaning somebody said to me, oh, well, that's because rights and abilities are metaphysical things. They're not physical, tangible things. And I said, okay, so ideas are not physical, tangible things, but can you give me an idea you don't have?
Well, all right. So I've got an experiment for you. Let's say me and you, we find ourselves on an island, and Josh too. And yeah, I like it too. Well, Josh is on an island, right? Actually, I'm on an island too. Manhattan's an island. Technically, we're all an island.
Right, turtle island shit.
So we find ourselves on an island, and there's a limited amount of fresh water that replenishes at a certain rate, and it rains certain so often. But we're all pretty thirsty, and any one of us could, really quench our thirst anytime we wanted and live it up. And the other two people, then they're kind of fucked and they're left without water. So we got to be like, you know what? Let's divvy this water up. Let's set up a system of when you can collect water, when I can collect water, how much we can collect at the same time, and let's agree to that. So let's say we all agree to that, and we agree. If one person starts violating this agreement, the other two, they're going to confront them, and they're going to put a stop to it. So what we've just done is we've designated powers to ourselves, and we're now engaging in a certain form of self-governance, but we're doing it collectively. We're doing it in a way that might not have been a possibility or even a necessity if it was just one of us by ourselves. So did we
I understand that. Keep going.
Well, so my question is, I would say that we now just engaged in a process of self-governance, right?
Right, but see, that's the thing about this whole thing, and that's why Evolving Seeds is doing what we're doing, because there's nothing wrong with governance. The word govern just means govern, to control. You've just done that. You've just controlled.